Well, crowdfunding leads to the first gene discovery. We got Liz Gaines joining us now from All Things Digital in San Francisco. Liz, thank you very much for being there. Tell us about this. This is, and we know what, I think a lot of people know what crowdfunding is, but not everybody, so tell us.
So crowdfunding is when someone posts a project open to the public and invites them to participate in funding it. It generally, the biggest name in crowdfunding is Kickstarter, which has become famous for some of the projects like the Pebble watch, which raised I think $10 million, pretty astounding, but also for a lot of smaller projects. It's really popular with indie films. I think something like 10 films at Sundance this year have been backed on Kickstarter. And it's also going to turn into a whole new direction in the U.S. where Congress has approved and the President has signed crowdfunding legislation that's currently in the process of being reviewed by the SEC, which would allow people to invest for equity. But I have a feel-good story for you. It's not exactly what you think about crowdfunding normally. It's a 4-year-old girl named Maya Nieder who has some kind of a rare condition, and it was pretty much undiagnosed until this point, except that she had developmental delays, and all the testing so far had not really indicated where they were coming from. And this group called the Rare Genomics Institute had put up a crowdfunding project to sequence her DNA, and now that her genes have been sequenced, one has been identified that has a mutation that previously had never been identified before as probably an indicator of any condition. So that just happened, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and it was just announced this week.
Well, what is amazing here is the small amount of money raised and the fact that this actually led to this discovery. It raised $3,550 from 50 donors, according to your story, and it led to the first sequencing of this genetic disease as part of the company founder's PhD thesis. So it didn't take much money, did it?
Actually, that's a little bit off. The sequencing for his PhD thesis is separate from this project. This is a volunteer-run nonprofit by a guy who's now a professor.
Okay.
And he fields out these projects like the one for this young girl, which, only cost $3,500 to scientists around the country. I think in this case it was Yale, and matches them. So really carefully evaluates the kids, someone who was born with a condition, someone whose parents are both available for sequencing as well, etc., and then finds a researcher at an institution, I think most of them in the U.S., but some outside, who's willing to give it a look and do some real analysis on it. And so I think they have about 10 projects going so far. 3 of them have been successfully crowdfunded, and this is the first one that has led to gene discovery.
A discovery. Well, that's awesome, and it looks like he's getting a PhD too on the side, which means this man is very, very busy.